There we go.
Hi, Rich.
Hi, Heidi. Oh, I got time. I don't know, what can you explain that a little bit, Brian? Are we short on hose or what?
Well, in our last testing, we had several pieces that did not pass, and several of the pieces have dated out as far as beyond the length of their recommended lifespan. So they do convey water, but they may spring a leak. So we wouldn't want to put that kind of hose on our engines for emergencies. What I have done is talk to Travis and Brent, and what we're trying to do is wait until after the first of the year for the next year budget before we make that purchase. We have about $12,000 worth of hose of various sizes that needs to be replaced. So I guess I was trying to stall until the next budget cycle. So that's what the situation is.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Are we going to talk about? Yes. No.
I had several things. I went, Chief and I had extensive dialogue via email over the last couple of days. I want for all of you guys with all of it, but Chief, I did want to follow up on one item on the goal number 1 status report under staffing. Item 3 talks about aid car staffing, and then it says current staffing level for Station 83 at 95%. But when I look at the staffing levels on page 2, the 95% for Station 83 is really for nights and weekends. And the total staffing when you combine days and nights and weekends together is 92%. So there's just a small discrepancy there. So I just wanted to check to see if keep that connected in the future.
Well, we had at least 3 days. Sorry, go ahead.
It took me several emails to understand what the heck you were saying. So I finally got it. And yes, we can combine those numbers. We've frankly been focusing more on the volunteer side of the house, which was the original emphasis of that report, if you might remember. But yes, I think it's time to look at both stations' 24-hour response staffing. So I did send you kind of a table that showed what those numbers would be if we use the combined numbers, and I can begin reporting that next month as a district-wide achievement of our performance targets.
Do we have a specific reason why it should have 3 days during the month? Weekdays, day shift?
I'm sorry, you broke up on part of your question.
I was wondering if we had a specific reason why 83 was unstaffed during the days 3 times during the month.
Browning out because of lack of staffing. Now that we have temporarily placed 3 firefighters on 24-hour shift to help buttress the staffing at 83, there are some days with a combination of scheduling and annual leave or sick leave that we just don't have enough people to staff both stations during the day.
Let's see, what else? Anybody else have anything? I think I had one more here. Because I was looking regarding staffing, you know, we look at the monthly volunteer staffing report, and there's 88 names on that list, but when you take out those that have resigned and the receptionist and the chaplain and those on leave, And those not assigned to a shift, we have a total of 53 people available for 9 shifts. So that's 6 per shift divided by 2 stations, that's 3 per shift. It's not a whole lot of leeway there. I was looking at the budget, Appendix 7, and while the revenue looks good, the expenditures are quite a bit higher than the estimated ones. So do we have a reason for that?
Well, that was part of my report I was going to do after I've answered all the
Oh,
questions. on
okay.
the report.
Okay, go ahead. That's all I had.
I've got one more question. So on your goals, number 2, it says all relevant district driver operators will be qualified for type 1 pumper by December of 2020. How is the status on that? I mean, where are we at with the training for driver operators, since I know that's sort of where we're lacking in some of the areas?
That will be part of the report that I provide after the completion of this meeting.
Okay,
It's fairly long and drawn out discussion, but I think it would be best done as part of the exempt meeting.
okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Then I guess we're ready to move on then.
Well, there were some questions about the graphs that show us being overspent based on our month-by-month budget process. And at the end of September, we were approximately 4% over our budget, if you will. The vast majority of that, well, there's 3 things. The largest factor is in labor right now, and most of that is due to overtime that we have paid to career staff, both as officers to staff both Station 81 and Station 83 as far as coverage and maintaining 2 crews. But probably the larger piece is overtime that we pay to our firefighters to help supplement the staffing at 83 for nights and weekends. Our overtime budget is about 484% over the budget that we had established. We're approximately, we've spent about, at the end of September, we've spent about $97,000 in overtime for all career labor. So that, we haven't had much of a break since really February because of trying to increase our staffing. We did bring on additional person, additional firefighter, which helped a bit, but still now with having to spread the drivers a little bit thinner, and again, we'll talk about that in a moment, but that's the bulk of it. That's probably 2/3 of what the overage is that we have right now. The second piece to that are equipment and facilities, and a lot of that was related to the COVID supplies and so forth that we have purchased. And by the way, about 75% of that will be reimbursable from the federal government. That's about, the total for that is, just a moment here, is $27,000 for goods and services. The other was a front-end purchase of turnout gear for new members for our single recruit academy that we did actually push through. And that was the only recruiting cycle that we've done. And that was for PPE, and that was purchased early on. And a lot of that purchase is normalizing you, if you might, over the course of the year. For example, in August, at the end of August, our overall budget variance was about 5.3%. and it's dropped down about 1.5 points this month, and a lot of that's the normalizing of the early equipment purchases. The third piece is largely the increased cost above our budget for insurance. And we had an increase in our insurance premiums this year that we weren't aware of. And plus the kind of that, as part of the budgeting, we probably under budgeted because of the average billing that we get for our life insurance, which is a separate policy, varies from time to time. In some years we get 2 billings, others times we don't. So we have about $18,000 worth of variance permanently because of insurance for this year. So that's the bulk of where our overages are.
Okay.
What was the dollar amount of the labor piece of it, roughly?
Our total variance for all labor is about 78,000. But again, most of that is normalized by underfilling vacancies and career staff, and the commissioner's budget's lower and everything. So the bulk of that overage is the overtime budget, which, like I say, is way over, and the $33,000 that we have collected in staffing costs that we hope to get at least 75% of that reimbursed from the federal government.
Right.
So those are the primary two
Yeah,
primary.
so that the other pieces pale in comparison to that chunk, which
Yeah.
is reflected in your graph too.
And just to note, what Heidi and I are working on are the application packages to the federal government, and there could be more labor that we can include in our application, and we're learning about what that all means and what documentation we need to do for that. So that reimbursement may go up slightly, but the total amount that we ask for reimbursement, the FEMA provides 75% reimbursement for that amount. So.
Do you get it when you,
Anything? Go ahead, Pam.
speaking of FEMA reimbursement, do you have to wait till the end of the year to submit for that, or do you submit whenever?
Basically, we're in the process of doing it now. There is no time frame or deadline at this point. On September 14th, they changed the reimbursement rules. So frankly, I hadn't planned to make an application until we were out of the woods and COVID free or whatever it will be. But what we've chosen to do is go ahead and submit an application to FEMA based on the rules from January 1 through September 14. And we're collecting all of the expenses that we've incurred between those time periods. And in the hopefully in the next month or so, we'll be submitting that application. I got to tell you, I think that FEMA has been very helpful, interestingly, on this process. I've never gotten as much straight talk and answers as I have from our account person that we have up in Camp Murray. So
Good, good.
Is there any other questions on the budget?
None here other than thank you for that overview. Appreciate that. And I would encourage us to, as kind of a standard process, to keep an eye on the budget. And when there's a variance, this kind of proactive reporting of at a high level of what's driving that and what we're doing to manage it, that is just perfect for us as a board, I think. So I appreciate that approach.
Yeah.
So Chief, when you say you had the overtime, so do you feel that some of our volunteers aren't coming in because maybe of COVID and they're afraid to catch it, or is because I'm figuring we are lacking in volunteers and that's why we're having the overtime. Is that correct? Did you hear me?
Or
Oh,
just went out again?
Tower's blinking.
yeah. Did you hear me?
He's back.
Is everybody back?
Yeah. Did you hear me?
Our power just went out again. It's been going off and on all day. What was your question?
So
Oh,
that's
yeah, I
okay.
know, I remember.
Yeah.
I think the answer is more focused on two things, and we'll talk about that at our exempt meeting afterwards.
Okay. Okay. What was I gonna say? Okay, I can't think of it now, so we'll talk later.
Okay.
Lost-
think we lost Rich.
And Milt,
Oh, and Mill.
They'll be back.
Yeah.
Well, as long as we don't have a tree go across our power lines, I'm safe.
Yeah.
Then I'll have to call Hetland and tell them to move the tree.
well, since Alex Wright moved out of our neighborhood, my power hasn't gone out much because his trees quit falling on
Yeah.
on our power line on 61st.
We have a lot of trees. Yeah.
Are there any other questions on the budget?
No.
Should I wait until Milton? Heidi, do you want to text them or see if they know that they're off?
Yeah, they probably know they're off, and Rich said at the outset that if he went off, he'd
It
have to
takes
struggle to
minutes.
get himself linked back on again. It, not being a computer guy.
Mm.
But I guess I could tell him to come over to the house, huh? He could go
Yeah.
up to station 82. He could go up to station 83 and probably connect over there.
Yeah.
And we have emergency power there.
Well, I lost my whole South Bay Outlook, but I had my Aflac Outlook. So I had to wait for the South Bay one to reload before I could get to the link to call in. And I'm using my phone trying to do it. And it wasn't working there either. I'm like, darn. Finally, it just reloaded. And thanks to Mark, he was helping me.
Way to go, Mark.
He's a little bit more techie than I am. I can use the computer just fine, but I tend to get frustrated when they don't work for me. So I'm like, can you help me?
I can use my computer very well as long as Heidi's here, so.
Right?
Yeah, I was being the IT person at our work. The girls couldn't figure out how to get their shop licenses renewed and all that. And we ended up having to just print it off because it just kept taking us to this loop. It wouldn't get us to where we needed to go. And I was just like, and then I get to the other salon, and then it's the same thing. I'm helping with stuff there. And I'm like, I need to get out of here. I need to get home, you know?
I'm back.
Oh, he's back.
Okay, we just are waiting for Rich.
Yeah, we had a power flicker here.
Mhm. Our backyard looks like a bomb went off from all the branches everywhere. And I just cleaned it yesterday.
Yeah. Did that thunderstorm wake you guys up this morning?
I did hear it. Yeah.
Oh my God, I couldn't
We-
believe it. It was like rattling the house and the rain coming down.
We had thunder and lightning right about 5:30.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, it hit us about 7.
Yeah. I heard it early, about 5:30. Yeah. I was already awake, but.
That's too early. I was still sleeping.
Yeah. Well, sticking out in we stick out into the water enough. I mean, we got the whole inlet open
Yeah.
south of us, so we get nailed by the wind. And I know,
Yeah.
Doug, you probably get it pretty hard too, but
Yep. Yeah, because it comes up across your field and then hits us.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
it's pretty loud. So the wind wakes me up more often than thunder and lightning I can sleep through, but the wind will wake me up because I'm afraid the trees will come down on the house. So that makes
Yeah.
that's the end I sleep on.
You want me to just move on to the next line item and
Yeah.
catch Rich up if he gets back? So,
Yeah.
well, actually, we did talk about the TCOM project. Most of what I've been doing has been working with Keith and doing some outreach. I also have been working with him on a draft agreement, which is not nearly enough complete yet to really share, but essentially it will reflect the terms that, my ask is that they essentially pay for the propane and the electricity in the building. And any improvements that they do for their project would be at no cost to the district. So I'm not recommending, or probably won't be in the contract recommending, any rental fee, but one of the things that I do want to include, and I'm working with Keith on, is TCOM's first right of refusal to purchase the property when the district declares them surplus. So I have kind of planted a little seed about the thought of purchasing it now, and we could lease back the space that we need until we need to move out. So I don't know how that fits in his project. We talked a little bit about that. So, but at some point we'll have a draft contract, hopefully by next month, that I can share with you and get your input on.
Cool.
That's really all I have on that project right now. So, do we want to skip down to the driving policy, or any thoughts?
I'm okay with that.
I did send out a draft, and it did incorporate some input that I had received. And I haven't, since I sent this out last month, I haven't received any input on. So again, I'd like to ask for approval of the updated policy. What we're going to plan to do is take this new overarching policy and basically lay it over our brand new driver and operator training manual that Derek and Brandon have put together, and officially launch it under the new policy. So I'm pretty excited about that. So
You want to do a quick rewind for Rich?
Sorry, yeah, I'm back finally, sorry.
yeah, we skipped down to the draft policy on driving. And
Oh, okay. I was okay with it.
Chief,
That's
just a
good.
quick question. When I looked for it this morning, the last version I saw was from September 15th
Yeah.
in my email. Is that the most recent version?
yes,
Okay.
Okay, so where are we on that?
well, I'd like board approval of it.
Okay, so have you done all the discussion you need to do?
I don't know. I just kind of gave a brief overview. and-
Okay,
I didn't have anything that raised a question or concern for me.
okay. Anybody have any questions, comments?
I'm good.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll entertain you with a motion to move.
I have a motion
I'll second the motion.
and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The next item I have is Insight Wireless proposal. We received, as the email that I sent out, we received a non-solicited offer again for the current tower owner to purchase the land that we have under contract that we own, so that they would then have the land and the tower and everything. It would be a little jog in our current property line at the training center. I looked at the proposal and did somewhat modest future, current value of our money and so forth, but it looks like conservatively that the sum would be in excess of 20 years worth of rental revenue. And that possibly more, because a portion of the revenue that we receive on an annual basis are for subleases. At one time, there were 3. Now there are 2 subleasers on the tower, and we get a portion of their lease payment as well as a pass-through. But one of the things that I think is that that the numbers of subleases on that tower will probably certainly not increase and probably decrease as the current tower owner is using that tower more for their own equipment, which is primarily Xfinity Comcast. So the 20-year present value of that amount would be extended to some degree. And I have no hard numbers for that in. The other thing that I asked for and they granted was the current or continued use that we have for that tower, primarily use of the tower itself for antenna. At the base of the antenna, we have our radio equipment that we use for our base station at Station 81. And then the use of a tower owner-owned conduit between that site and Station 81 has cable that runs from the radio equipment there in behind the shop building at the training center. We would retain exclusive use at no cost for that as well. So again, based on all that, it would be my recommendation to agree with their proposal and begin to work on a contract and all the necessary work that we would have to do to declare that portion of land surplus and sell it and transfer it. They have said that they would pay for all of the necessary legal work that would be required to make that transfer.
Question, Chief. There was a difference between what they were offering in terms of a sale price and what you asked for. Are you
Yes.
saying that they consented to your number?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Good work.
Well, the part of the reason, I'll be honest with you, is that that thing changes ownership frequently, and it's been a real pain for Heidi to track down and work out and make sure we're receiving all the annual payments necessary. And so, frankly, the total amounts that we've been getting, the most recent one was about $42,000 that included the sublease payments. The base payment is about $23,000, I believe. So that's a lot of work to do that on an annual basis, but nonetheless, we've been doing it. And the other was thinking that as we look at kind of an interim position in our long-term financing, that it might help us bridge that time where we, from today to when we, hopefully successfully get voter approval for a maintenance and operation levy, or what we finally settle on. So that kind of what was behind my recommendation.
Well, I'm looking at this piece of paper, and I'm assuming that's what we were supposed to look at. It says 625,000, but in bold print at the bottom, you have term sheet executed October 23rd, 2020, and increase the purchase price by 200,000 to 825,000. So what price would they be buying it at? The 625 or the 825?
The 625 was their offer. They had a $200,000 signing bonus, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I suggested that, okay, you want to play 3/8, just try 4, and I asked them for a $50,000 increase, which solidly put us in a 20-month future value of the amount, as far as I could calculate, and they agreed to it. So the total sale price would be $875 plus any legal fees necessary to make the transfer.
Okay. And when would this take effect?
When we complete all the paperwork that's necessary. They wanted to do this before the end of the year. They came across the company, according to the person I talked to there, they had a lot of free cash that they wanted to dump. So
Oh, okay.
that's
So,
what the $200,000 bonus primarily is cash that they wanted to hide somewhere, I'm sure.
okay, so once this is said and done and signed on the dotted line, where will those funds go into our budget?
I like the email that I sent. I'm recommending that they go into our reserve fund and be used to help us balance our operating budget between our property tax revenues and what we finally agreed to as an expense budget, just like we talked about in our financial strategic planning.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
Anybody else?
I had some email exchange with the chief, and I've got 2 or 3 things I'd like to check in on, and a couple of concerns to express. First one is what's in it for them? You know, I understand they have a lot of cash and they want to manage that and everything, but they wouldn't be doing this if it didn't add value for them somehow. And the question or concern I've got is that we are strategically, we're at an information disadvantage. They know there's this business, they know where it's headed. They know what the demand is going to be for space on towers and what they're going to be doing with it. I don't think any of us have that business expertise, and so we're kind of babes in the wilderness on this. And so, Chief, do you have any more background on why they want to do this? Because they came at us for this a year or 2 ago, as I recall, with the lower number.
I don't know, Milt. They didn't share their corporate secrets with me. I can only say that they found it as an eligible way to sock some cash away instead of paying income tax on it, I guess. But I don't know.
Where I'm going with this is I'm wondering if before we commit to this, if we could find somebody who is in a situation that owns land that has a lot of towers. Maybe the state is in a position where the people have placed towers on their properties, and there's somebody at the state who manages that. They might have some insight. They may be getting these same kind of proposals and have some insight on what the trade-offs are and why they want to do this, and is this a reasonable deal for us? Just somebody who has more business expertise on this stuff that we could consult with, I think would be beneficial for us. Would it be possible to check around and see? I mean, the state immediately comes to my mind, but there may be some other entities out there that this might apply to.
Well, I really don't know. The way the state does it, it's a bit different just by the basis of the magnitude of the work. Like the DNR has hundreds of contracts like this, but
Okay.
I'm not sure that they would have the correct or the same perspective as a small landowner that we do. But I certainly we could do further research. I guess the only thing that I would point out is that the time frame for this, they've wanted to consummate this thing before the end of the year, probably for tax purposes. So I don't know how much time we have, but we could get some other input. I don't know. I could look around. We had years ago, we had a attorney that helped us negotiate the original contract. I don't know if that person is still in business or even alive anymore, but we could find out.
All right. Yeah, it feels to me from a strategic standpoint, we're at an information disadvantage, and this may be a good deal, but it may not. There may be a better deal out there, and so that's one concern. Another one is just and kind of related to that. I would find it really helpful to see the NPV analysis that shows the net present value calculation to verify that amount and be convinced that it really is to our benefit from that standpoint. Based on what I've gotten, I've tried to put it together, and it really looks pretty ambivalent from a financing standpoint, whether or not that's a good price or not. It's kind of either way it's kind of equal. So, but I don't have enough information, and I'm making crazy assumptions about the subleases and so forth. And like you say, that's unpredictable to some extent. Then,
As far as the present value, the math that I used was very simple. I had one class of real estate in college 30 years ago, but most of that's gone now. But I don't know what, the only comparable that I would have is how many future rent payments could possibly, would we even up with, if you will, with the current price. But I guess I balanced that with the concerns that I talked about earlier about having that cash in-house now when we need it. But as I pointed out to you, I mean, frankly, this is only less than 1% of our total revenues anyway. So on an annual basis, and that, even up to 40,000 is less than 1% of our total revenues, that we're not talking about millions of dollars or large overall investments. So I'm not sure.
But over 20 years, if it's growing at 3% a year, it adds up to, I think, $900,000 about, and it covers half a firefighter as an example. And if
Or a third.
And if we don't have that income coming in, we're going to eventually have to replace that income with taxation. So there's that trade-off for us to consider. And that's really my other concern is if we get this windfall of cash, what are we going to do with it? I think there's a risk that we're going to spend it. And maybe that's okay. But I'm just concerned about making sure that we spend our money wisely. So it's a big transaction to make a quick decision on, and so I just want to think it through and get more information if possible. And for the NPV analysis, I'm with you. I used to do that stuff buying multi-million-dollar computer deals, and it gets a little smoky sometimes. And I had corporate finance guys who I'd consult with, and they'd save my butt sometimes. And it'd be good if we could find somebody who does that kind of analysis regularly to run the numbers for us, just to confirm that they pencil out.
That area was my concern also, is that if we put it in a reserve account, that it stays there and is used solely for the purpose of bridging the gap between revenues and budgeted expenditures, and not find something new to spend it on, something, new toy or something like that, that it just stays there for that particular purpose only. Because if we spend it for other things, then we're right back to square one.
So my question is on this wireless group, is this a cell tower for people's cell communication, or is it for radio? What is this tower, this company?
Well, the company owns the tower, the structure,
Yeah.
and it's on ground that they leased from us. It's on
Yeah.
our property.
Okay, but
So
what
I'm
do
not
they
sure
use
what's
it-
on the tower. Originally, it was microwave equipment for Comcast, and it shot a microwave signal over to the west side, and it was part of a relay station. Later, they got subleases for cellular equipment. I think MCI was one of them, AT&T was one of them, and those have changed over time as well. So there's a variety of equipment on it, including ours, which is our main radio antenna that we use for our base station.
Okay.
So I don't know, I can't answer specifically what's on there, but I do know they have a couple of microwave dishes.
Okay.
So I guess I kind of, I'm at a loss now what the board would like me to do.
Well, I haven't heard any negative stuff other than that Milt would like more information on other businesses, not necessarily fire departments, but others that are in a similar situation. So for me, I know you want approval on this, and I would make a motion that we move forward with approval of the request to sell the tower, with the caveat that Brian does some research on maybe one or two other companies to find out what happens in their similar situation, and if nothing is negative, that we move forward with the sale. If there's some negative impacts to those other entities, then he comes back to us. So
What was the
basically,
date?
I'm not sure.
Again, I'm at a loss. How do I determine what's negative or not?
Well, I think you can, I think if you could do the research in this month, that gives you a month of us to see, it gives you, well, basically less than a month. So at the next board meeting would be, we'd have to do the research, and then in the next board meeting, we could determine, you could determine if there's any negative or not. I mean, does that give you enough time in the next couple of weeks to research this?
It may not give the cell tower company enough time to make the transfer if we wait another month.
Their letter says execution on or before October 23rd, so that's a week from Friday.
Yeah.
I would be open to the chief does some additional research to see what he can learn from other entities that own space or on land that towers are on, to see what's going on in their world, and if they think this kind of deal is reasonable, and also to see if we can consult with the financial person to check the numbers to make sure they pencil out. And then we could have a special meeting the end of next week or something like that, to that's only agenda item is to consider this deal. I mean, we're talking $875,000. That's a big deal to me. To me, that's worth a meeting.
Okay, well, we could have the meeting as soon as Brian got the information, so wouldn't have to wait any time at all. If you got the information tomorrow, we could have the meeting Thursday, or, or tomorrow night, whatever, just a quick phone call. And as far as I'm concerned, he could maybe just call each one of us to let us know and see where we are, instead of calling a meting and take the time to set it up. I don't know if we can do that.
We still have to have a public meeting to approve it.
Well, that was my motion, was to approve it now, pending any negative comments that Brian may receive. So it would go forward unless Brian got some negative feedback. Then he could communicate that to us and we would postpone. If there's no negative feedback, then he could still communicate that to us, so that we would know that our motion, if we voted on it tonight, would be okay to move forward with the passage, or non-passage if you choose. So, Doug, I see a hand.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I just have a problem with saying, well, we're making a decision unless we decide that we didn't make a decision based on something that's going to happen or may not happen, because chief might be able to get a hold of somebody or not. So, I mean, I understand what Milt is saying is that we have limited information, but in all situations, don't you have limited information? I mean, you want to try and maximize what you can, and to say, well, let's ask the state, or let's ask some other government entity who also has towers on their property, what they do or what they think. but a lot of these things, I mean, to me, it seems like these are all individual. So what's the value of that particular tower in terms of its location and its proximity to the things it needs to connect to? We don't know, but there's no way that we can know unless somebody from the corporation says, oh, I'll spill the beans. I'll tell you everything about our secrets and this and that. And whether or not that's similar or completely different than a tower that's on another piece of property that's owned by another third party. I mean, it just seems like we're asking for, we'd love to have this information. We'd love to be able to get the right price. I think the only thing I heard that I really agree with is we want to be able to duplicate the math on the net present value. I think that's a reasonable thing to try and do. The rest of this stuff about understanding corporate information or what's their motivation to sell it now, I don't think we can ever know that. And
Yeah,
put it on the chief. And how many hours of our highest paid employee do we want to spend on doing that?
Yeah, I understand that each situation is going to be unique, but if we can find somebody who in DNR or wherever who manages these kinds of things for the state, they may say, oh yeah, these things happen all the time and it can be for different reasons and it's no big deal. That's good information for me. Or they may say, yeah, we get these deals all the time and we routinely reject them because for whatever reason. We don't know what's the pattern with this. Just some information would I think be helpful.
Okay, well, just keep in mind that their letter says that it must close before the end of the year. And I assume close means all the legal paperwork has to be done. And if we delay too long, then they may not have enough time to do that. And then we're back to nothing except the original lease.
They could find someone else's property to put the tower on.
I don't think that would be it. If Brian's right and it's for tax purposes because they're trying to, sink some money into an investment so they can write it off, then they're going to do that. And they may not be happy campers if we put them off too long and they don't have time to sink that money someplace else. So what do you guys want to do?
Well,
I made my motion.
I'd be happy to give the chief direction to see if he can find out more information. And, within some time frame, the next 2 days, if you can find something. If nothing seems to be available in 2 days or 3 days, then, don't spend any more time. And if, he does find out, as Milt says, oh, I got a hold of the guy that said, yeah, this happens. This is a great thing to do. I would go for it. And sort of confirms it. Then I sort of agree we could have a special board meeting to get that information and make a decision. But I don't know that a decision to say, we'll do it unless you find something that's bad. I don't know. Is that really a proper, decision? Is that a proper direction to the chief?
And Chief, realistically, in 2 days, could you even find that information, or do you even know where to begin to go look for that information?
Well, I would tell you from my experience, having sold several parcels of district land, that you've seen one real estate deal, you've seen one real estate deal. I mean, they aren't comparable. So they're all unique in nature. They all have, it's like elbows. Everyone's got two of them. So I just don't know how much information I will be able to cultivate to raise any level of confidence that this is the right thing to do. I think it's a great question. So
I mean,
how much information do we need to say yes or no? I mean, if it doesn't sound like a good deal, then we'll tell them deal's off, sorry. Or if it is, then it's good. I've given you probably the most reasonable financial estimate for net present value. I don't know that we'll hire a consultant to find any number to the third digit, nor will it make much difference because there are so many unknowns. As far as understanding the reason that the company wants to do this, like Doug said, we will never know for sure. Again, I think they've got a large hoard of cash that they want to disperse somehow.
Well, I
So I
understand
think-
that, but my question is, do you know where, if you were to have to go search to talk to somebody to find out, is this a reasonable offer that they're offering us? Do you even know where to begin to go and look for that? Because if you don't, then that's wasting 2 days of your time and you don't even know where to start to go to look. So to me, if you don't even know, then we're asking too much of you to have to do that. And it's just not worth the time that we pay you to have to do that. So to me, their offer is a reasonable offer. It's a fair offer. Would we get $1 million? Maybe, maybe not. But, you know, because that's $200,000 more. So I'm saying that I'm satisfied with what we have here, because in the time frame that needs to be done and everything, your time is costs us money to have you do something for this. I mean, I feel we should just accept the offer that we have. And if we want, we can maybe throw out another 100,000 and see if they're willing to bite for another 100,000. You said 50,000 and they took that. So, you know, you could even do that if you wanted. But I personally think having you try to research something in 2 days is just not feasible. I mean,
Okay, anybody else comments? Where are you, Milt? Are you still where you were before, or are you willing to back up?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm still where I was, and if y'all want to disagree with that, that's fine. But I feel like for a transaction of this magnitude, I think we should have more information. If we can find somebody else who has dealt with this kind of thing, they might say, yeah, these are good deals to do, but what? You're only getting 20 years of revenue, you should be getting 30. Or they may say, yeah, typically it's 10. So this is a great deal, go do it.
but where do you begin to go even look for that information?
I don't know, there's gotta be somebody
Yeah.
in the state who routinely manages these deals. You call the director of some department and say, this is what I'm looking for. And 2 or 3 calls, you're either gonna find somebody or you're not. But you can at least try.
You might be able to get the people who are making the offer to give you the name of 1 or 2 other people that they have purchased property from. And that would be if they'll give it to you.
Right. I mean, we don't have any benchmark to look at to say this is a good deal,
Yeah.
other than what they're offering. Typically, when you are buying real estate, you're looking at comparables and so forth. All I've got is this information that has been given to us by the buyer.
How big is this piece of property? It's pretty small that the tower sits on, right? They're just wanting,
Couple 100 square feet.
oh, so it's bigger than I thought.
Well,
Yeah.
I can certainly do research. I can do anything you folks want me to. But I don't know what the result of that research will be, whether it will be compelling or not, or, and you know, you're right. I mean, I'd have to find out who to talk to get an answer. I certainly don't think the vendor's going to share any of that. It would be not in their best interest. And it's, like I say, a real estate deal is even considered by the state as a unique transaction. That's why there are
It's oranges.
fewer regulations on real estate transactions. But I'll do what the board directs me to.
Want to
Okay,
vote?
well, I didn't hear a second to my motion, so it either is gonna die and go away and we give Brian directions, or somebody else is gonna need to make a motion, one way or the other.
Re-motion. I want to hear it, what you said again.
What I said,
I wanna
my
hear it.
motion was to approve the sale of the tower tonight at this meeting, pending any negative comments that Brian may get back on some research in the next couple of days. And then he can call us and say, I didn't get any. And then we can say, okay, I'm good with moving forward, or, you know, the meaning that the motion would carry, or he got negative feedback, so we would discuss that and see if we still wanted to sell or not.
Okay.
But I'm okay with another motion, or no motion, if you want to just give Brian direction. Say, I mean, the way we're discussing this thing now is to say, Brian, please go do the research in the next 1 or 2 days. If you find nothing, then have Heidi schedule a quick meeting Thursday night or Friday night or something like that, or Friday day, if everybody's off Fridays, except for Doug. I think Gloria works Friday too, don't you?
Yeah, but I have a massage appointment at 2:30, so if we're gonna do anything, it's gonna be before that, because I'm not
Well,
giving
we'll-
up my massage appointment.
We'll call
And
it,
I'm
we'll
leaving,
call it,
and I'm leaving for the ocean to go clam digging right after.
we'll call it 3 o'clock. You'll be in a good mood.
Yeah, I'll still be in my massage.
Okay, so I hear no motion, so I guess the direction is for Brian to do his research in the next couple of days and give us a call. Okay?
Well, that means that we are going to have a special meeting set up.
Yes, we will have to have a special meeting.
Do you want to schedule that now? Because it's going to have 24-hour notice.
We can do that, say Thursday night at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever, and say it's gonna be 30 minutes long.
I have clients at that time, but
Okay, well, I just
is it
picked the
an
time.
executive session or is it a
No.
public meeting?
It's a public meeting.
Okay, so I can have my laptop on and talk.
Yes,
Just
you
put it
can
on
have
mute
your
and keep working. Okay,
Yes.
I can do that at work.
I'd prefer to not have it be this Friday. Give me some
Well,
time.
I just picked a date, Brian.
It could be next week too. I mean,
We could do Monday. I'm off Monday. I'm off Monday. I think I'm off Wednesday.
Well, one thing that I was going to be bringing up later on in the meeting is to schedule a special board budget, or excuse me, budget meeting. Perhaps we could incorporate both of them
Okay.
together and do it sometime next week.
Next week.
So what I'm hearing you say, Gloria, is that Monday's your best day?
Yeah, I'm gonna look on my calendar right now because I'm what is that, next week?
Wednesday's that Schnur meeting, so we couldn't do it Wednesday evening next week.
Okay. Which
But
is
that's-
I'd be okay with Monday. I'm furloughed on that day.
Are
Yeah.
you available during the day to do
Yeah.
it as a?
Yes, I'm not employed that day, so I'm good
Okay.
anytime.
Mm.
You're good anytime. And I
I'm
believe
good. I'm furloughed every day.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not working on Monday, the 19th, so I'm good. And Wednesday, I'm off also.
Monday's the only day I'm not, Monday's a good day for me too.
If we could do it on, Monday morning, I've got a 1 o'clock meeting that will last till 3. Either have it
That's fine.
before 1 or after 3.
That's fine.
how about 10 o'clock
That
on
works.
Monday?
That works.
On Monday.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll post that as a public meeting public meeting. And I'll send out the Zoom link and we'll do that Monday at 10. And we'll try to continue the conversation that we haven't begun yet, but we're going to about the budget. And then we can talk budget and results of whatever research that the chief is able to find.
So
Okay.
that'll be for our usual budget workshop and this decision. Thank you.
If it's okay with that, are you okay with that, Chief? Or is that too fast? Okay.
Okay. Next item then, the district budget policy.
I have received certain input and questions on the draft budget policy recommendation report, including the 2021 goals and objectives. I believe that I've responded to all inquiries and made appropriate adjustments to the document. And as part of our budget process, we'll be asking for board approval tonight.
Okay, has everybody had adequate time to review this?
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm good with it, with the exception of the wording of goal number 1 for 2021. I don't want to belabor it. I just think there's some tweaking that we need to do to that to be more clear on what we're measuring and what the actual goal is. And it ties back to the back and forth that the chief and I were having on email. As an example, it says right now that the goal is to meet the target level of service 95% of the time, but it's not clear what that means. Does that mean that both stations are 95, or one's 100 and the other one's 95? Is it the average for the year, or is it meeting that target by the end of the year? Plus our current performance year to date is pretty much 95. So I just think we need to clarify that a little bit. And Chief, I know you replied back, but I didn't get a chance to digest that.
Well, I think at this point, I kind of understand where you're coming from finally. Perhaps if we could adopt the document and you and I can work on the finalization of the wording of the goal, essentially keeping the same intent, but clarifying it, I would be willing to do that.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay, so anybody want to make a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Okay. 2021 budget, review of the draft budget.
Excuse me. I wasn't looking up who voted no.
I did,
Okay. So it was 4-1.
yes.
Thank you.
I sent out the first cut of the expense budget. I'm still working on the capital budget and should have that ready for next Monday. But it will, the CNR&R budget will pretty much reflect what our schedule has been on our schedule at this point. Part of the work that we're doing is looking at making some changes next year. So at this point, it probably won't make much difference other than purchasing of hose shortly after the first of the year or near that point in time. What I did hand out was a first cut on the operating budget. And I would, what I did when I developed this was trying to keep in perspective the numbers that I had provided in our 2021-2026 strategic plan. And for a couple of reasons, some of the numbers here are larger than what we had in that plan. And I can go into that in detail next Monday. But the bulk of the variance is one of the things that I didn't do when I provided the numbers for our 2021-2026 plan was consider costs related to holiday pay for our bargaining unit staff. So that created about $130,000 difference between what's shown here on this detailed sheet and what was listed for INR&R labor in our plan. I wasn't very happy when I discovered that, obviously. The problem is that with the changes in the bargaining agreement, we have been booking holiday pay differently than we did in the past. So that number didn't, I just made a mistake and didn't include that number in our 2026 plan. That's the single largest departure. The second one would be increasing our insurance coverage premiums, and that's going from about $65,000 to $95,000 that are listed there for the discussion that I had talked about earlier about the impact of increased premiums and the rolling in of the almost annual payment for life insurance. So what that amount, that $95,000 would cover, or would, should anyway, include anticipated increases for our insurance for 2021 based on what we've paid this year. Actually, those are the two biggest ones. One fairly minor one is I increased the amounts in our repairs and maintenance for facilities, as we have been working through our in-house management of facilities, repairs and operations and so forth. Obviously encountered some things that we need to be doing better preventative maintenance on. And I've got a better list of those items too. And I think that total was $10,000 or $15,000 total. So if you go back, and I will send out tomorrow, I can show a comparison between the 2021-2026 plan and what this budget proposal is. And then we can go in more detail on that on Monday. But the biggest bust, unfortunately, was in our holiday pay to our career staff, bargaining unit career staff. And for that, I apologize.
And while we're apologizing, I need to apologize to you, Chief, because I was over by $10,000 in my insurance estimate. So what is listed as 95 should actually be 85. So I just saved you 10 grand.
You found some money.
That's great.
I literally just found it when I was right before the meeting. It was like 5:15 and I was doing some math, some checks on things. And then I looked at it and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It should be 85, not 95. So sorry, Brian.
It sounds like we're going to need to sell that tower.
What's that?
Sounds like we're going to need to sell that tower.
Right. So I will send out prior to Monday a copy of the comparisons plus proposed CNR&R and capital facilities budgets that we'll go over. We do need to have legally, and I'm not sure what the date is, but prior to November 30th, we do need a legal hearing for collecting property taxes. And in the past, we've either had that part of the
On November 10th.
regular meeting, or we've had it be part of the special meeting. So I think it probably would be better to do that in our November regular meeting after we've had a workshop. So
Yeah.
Chief, for the workshop, can you also provide the same as the budget report that you've emailed to Dave, but with the last year or two actuals next to it just for run rate comparison?
Yeah.
Great, that would be helpful. Thank you.
And that's really all I have on that at this point, unless there's any questions.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
Mm-mm.
No,
Okay, then secretary's reports next.
Hey, well, I sent out the minutes of September 14th. I did have a couple of minor changes that were recommended, and those have been implemented. Any
Do I have any,
questions?
anybody have any questions or comments? I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved.
I'm happy to answer any questions on warrants.
Anybody have any questions? I didn't have a lot of time to go over these.
I had a question that I asked about our payments for the work on the septic system. Chief sent me the 3 reports that our consultant produced. Thank you very much, Chief. You know how I love those public works pieces.
So I only have a question on 1093, and it's got a list of, you know, Osborne, Van Camp, Zaversky's, Cloud. It's 2,500 from US Bank. What is that?
So each of our lieutenants have credit cards, and when we pay the credit card bill, we ask each of the folks to fill out a very detailed form, and they have to code it with the correct account codes and a description, etc. And
Oh, that's on the back. I see that.
what?
I see that on the back sheet now. So that's what that
Yeah,
is.
so when it's inputted, all that is the memo, because you can't fit everything in on
Right.
when you're typing it in. So
Right. I just, now that you said what it was for, I see the back sheet here.
yeah,
That it's all the breakdown. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And we've already scheduled the budget meeting. That is going to be on Monday at 10 a.m. I'm going to send out that notice tomorrow to all you guys.
Okay, anything else on the announcements? Commissioners' comments? Anybody have any comments? I have a couple of questions. One on the burglary at the new property. Have we had any resolution to that? Any follow-up information on that?
Not other than we've completed the burglary report and submitted it to the sheriff's office. It's probably the end of that track. So
Okay.
I've got Brent working on, we've put an application in for insurance coverage for that site to see if we can get reimbursed for the repairs and so forth. And they're working on procuring the replacement appliances and so forth. I think they've repaired the damage that's been done inside. I've also asked that we have a fire and burglary alarm system installed in the house, which we would probably want to do anyway with having occupants in there. As far as the use of the building, we've talked about accelerating the resident response program and so forth, but we do have one of our volunteers who will be willing to squat in the house, if you will, until such time that we need it for a resident program where they will keep an eye on the house and do some minor maintenance around the place and everything. So we're making arrangements for that.
Well, quite a few months ago, we did put out a request for people interested in the program, and we had 2 or 3 people interested. Are they not ready to move into that program now, or what?
Well, we're not ready to launch the program. And again, for the reasons that I've stated, but primarily is that I don't want to promote additional cohabitation right now with the COVID situation not being resolved. And that, once, to some degree, when the governor says we're in phase 4, then we'll proceed on and get our residents lined up and housed in there. But I think we need to minimize as much cohabitation as we can. Right now, we've got 2 facilities that we have people sleeping overnight, which is, we've worked to be very careful about preventing exposures or getting anyone that will need to be quarantined or isolated. But even that's different than having somebody actually reside in a building next to each other. I mean, I don't believe that's an acceptable risk at this point.
So if we have people in the house, are we gonna need a burglar system there? I mean,
Well,
we're
I'm
a long
planning-
way out.
I'm planning that it be a fire and burglar system like I've got in my house. I think it's just the right thing to do. We're getting more information about it. And I'm not quite sure where we are with, we had some trouble trying to get a reasonable contract with the company that has our commercial account. So again, we're still working on that issue. But even if we didn't put a burglar alarm, I'd want to put a fire alarm system in the building. But generally, they come as a package, especially for a residential grade alarm system.
So this is one you're gonna have monitored by somebody else?
Yes.
The other thing I had was, I was going through some old emails, and several months ago, actually January, the end of January, we had a complete aid kit, medical supply kit that went missing off of aid unit 83. And they put in an extra one. They had to make up one to put in there. Did we ever find that complete medical kit, or did we lose the whole medical kit bag and the supplies and equipment and everything?
I don't know. I'll have to check. Brandon, do you know?
No, I remember the discussion, but I don't remember the follow-up on it. We can, we'll ask around and we can find out what the deal with that was.
Okay, well, Ricky's the one that made the report and then put in the extra kit. So I don't know who else might have had their hands on it, but I'd be interested to know if we found that bag or if we have somebody that just walked off with one of our kits.
Right.
And if they got away with it once, are they getting away with it with other stuff that we don't know about yet?
Yeah, I can ask tomorrow and get a better idea where we are.
Okay, that was back, the report was originally January 28th. So if that helps, thank you. That's all mine. So review and follow up.
All
Well,
right.
I've noted that I will continue to provide updates on our budget status as well as our TCOM project out at Station 82. I will endeavor to research options regarding the proposed purchase of the land at the tower site, and we'll report back no later than the 19th. Milt and I will work on finalizing goal number 1 in the 2021 district budget policy recommendation document that's been approved. And we'll prepare to send out prior to the 19th additional information on the operating budget and the capital repairs and replacement budget and the capital facilities budgets. With the adoption tonight of policy 2-61 driving district vehicles, we'll be able to finally finalize our overall district driver operator training program. And I'm sure Derek will be very happy about that. And that's all I can see on my list.
I also have that we're going to include messages to about the radio project in our next newsletter. And you are going to make a slight minor change. Oh, you already said that to goal number 1. Yes, you got that. Combining days and nights. Yep, that's it.
Okay. If that's all, then we will not adjourn. We will, recess and then go to the labor issue discussion. So who do you want on here, Brian? This is yours.
You're on.
I lost you, Brian.
Sorry. Technically, we are adjourning this meeting, open public meeting, and we'll convene a exempt meeting regarding the items described in the RCW that I listed.
Okay, so do you want Brandon and Heidi on board?
Brandon and Heidi will be part of the discussion.
Okay, so I guess Dan will say goodbye to you, Dan.
Good night. Good
Bye,
night,
Dan.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Okay.
Does
Hi,
anybody